Good afternoon. My name is Genevieve Kessler, and I'm the State Strategy Lead here at the Refugee Advocacy Lab. For this brief tutorial today, I'm going to explain how you can use our state legislative tracker. The intent of the tracker is for you and your networks to reference and understand the policies introduced in state legislatures across the country which could benefit resettlement and refugees or negatively impact them. When you complete this tutorial, my hope is that you will understand the information and resources available within the tracker, and then how you can react to any of the information within to advocate for refugees in your own community. First, a little bit about how we build this. We use a tool which helps us search through each of the state legislative platforms that host information about bills that have been filed in state legislatures. It scrapes those systems for terms that match the ones we are seeking. So if a bill mentions refugees or resettlement, I'm alerted to that and then review them for inclusion in this tracker. This can sometimes be imperfect due to systemic or human error. Sometimes state legislatures don't update their websites quickly, meaning that the system is not as current as I or you may hope. We often rely on partners and communities across the country for assistance with making the trackers up to date as possible, as well as correcting any inaccuracies. This comprehensive list, though, regardless, is the best way to stay up to date on the state measures impacting refugees across the country. So I would encourage you to bookmark this tracker and return to it periodically. You'll see if bills have been added, what has changed, and the status and the updated status of any legislation already marked within. So let's dig in now. Let's start with navigating the page, which is powered by Quorum, as you can see in the web link here. It is hosted by the IRC, icon available here in the corner, and created in partnership with the Refugee Advocacy Lab, noted here, and you can also visit our website here. First, it's important to know some basics about your own state legislative session. Most state sessions, they actually only last for the very beginning of the year for a few months. So for example, if you're in Virginia, your state session is only 60 days, and at this point, it has already adjourned, though is pending a potential special session. If you're in a place like Montana or Nevada, your state isn't in session this year. However, later this year, you may want to monitor the tracker for any pre-filed legislation, which is those measures that are being filed in advance of state session 2023. Other states, like those of you perhaps in Michigan, are in session all year long. And I have referenced here a resource where you could see what your state legislative calendar looks like. It's through Multi-State. You can also check Fiscal Note, or you can dig into your own state legislative website to find out what their deadlines are for adjournment, introduction deadlines, carry, crossover, etc. So returning to Quorum. Digging into this page a little bit, let's start with the map. The map of the US here is one way to navigate the information within the tracker. This segment to the right shows darker coloring indicating where we have states that have more bills, lighter coloring for states that have fewer or no bills, as you'll see here with the lightest gray color. So we can dig into specific states. If we hover over New York, which is quite dark in color, we see they've got 16 bills. And then here in Ohio, which is that light gray color, we have 0 bills. We can also manipulate this map. So perhaps if you are located in Illinois, you only want to see that legislation which is pending in your own state. So we can click on the state of Illinois here. And then if you scroll through the bottom, you could see the short list of what we've tracked that's pending in your own state. Click it again, and you return to the full map. Let's take one more example, perhaps where we've got some more bills. Let's pop over to Washington. So again, I'm going to click on Washington State here in the map, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom to this matrix, and we can scroll through all the legislation that's pending exclusively in Washington State. Now, perhaps you're going through this and you find the map a little bit distracting. You can actually clear this off the page for you. So we can go to this icon here at the top for hide map. I'm going to click that. And then as you can see, the chart of all the track legislation moves upwards and we can see a whole lot more information. If you want to recover the map, we go to show map again, click it, and it brings it back to the page. One other feature that you may be interested in, and this is quite good for those of you who are perhaps presenting to supporter networks or to leaders within your own organization, is this feature called the download map. I'm going to click that and we'll allow it to download. When we pop this open, what you'll notice is that the coloring based on how many bills have been introduced in those states remains consistent with what we have within the tracker. However, you cannot manipulate this page, of course. But you will be able to display areas where there is higher or lower rates of activity. Close that out for now and return to our quorum screen. So I'm going to actually hide this map myself now so that we can dig into this chart. So the bill tracker itself, what you'll find is that the columns on the page, we have deliberately selected them so that you get the details that you need without hopefully overwhelming or overcrowding the space. I want you to have a snapshot of what's happening, is it good or bad, and where it's sitting in the process so that you can take that information and then move ahead and get involved. Similar to the map feature, you can also manipulate the prioritization and order of the columns if you prefer to see everything organized in a specific way. So let's practice that ourselves now. I'm gonna pop over here where we have region, which is our states. And in this triangle feature here, I'm gonna click on that. And as you can see, it'll organize states in alphabetical order. We can also reverse order on this. So perhaps if you live in Virginia, you don't want to scroll all the way down, be reverse ordered, and it starts with Wisconsin. We also have a stance column, and this is going to show you where I and my colleagues have assessed the legislation that we've tracked and determined whether or not we want to support it, as we have with this one, opposed it, as we have with this bill in West Virginia. I'm going to click on those little triangles, reverse order, and in some cases where we're watching legislation. So some of the reason why we might watch legislation is to see if any amendments are added, which changes the nature of the bill. It's not indicative necessarily of support or opposing, it's just really something that we're curious about, which we think could have some sort of impact on our clients and the communities in which we work. I would then call your attention over to our last column here, all the way to the right, which is our last timeline action. This will be really helpful to you if you're trying to see where something is sitting in the process. Is it the right time for you to get involved? Do you want to wait a little longer? Are things moving quickly? So we're going to come over to this last timeline action. And we're just going to, if you hover over it, you can see the complete description of what the most recent activity is. So here for this piece of legislation in Kansas, we've got the hearing date, the last hearing date that was scheduled, as well as the location. Scrolling a little further down, we can see additional details. Some of them actually include, some of the details actually include vote information. If there's something here, perhaps a bill that you're curious about, you can actually come back over to this source link and you can click on the external link and that'll take you to the website. So let's find a bill. Let's pop into Vermont. So we're going to click on this external link. It takes us to the Vermont State Legislative website. And then we can click on this link for as introduced and see the full bill. So you don't actually have to have a subscription to Quorum yourself if you want to follow through and track a piece of legislation or gather a few more details. Let's try another one. So we'll pop into Delaware. And these pages generally contain all of the information that you would need. So it provides you with the status, what's happening next, gives you the sponsors and co-sponsors, and it'll provide you with the links for text. As a bill moves through the process, this section here in the amendments will expand for any changes that are made to the original text of the legislation. And this information in total should help you navigate your own advocacy strategy to determine when you want to get involved, if you want to get involved and start engaging on a piece of legislation. So I hope this quick tutorial has been helpful for you in figuring out how to navigate this page. I am, of course, available if you have any follow-up questions. Please feel free to reach out to me at the email address that you see on your screen. Always happy to connect with you. We can also assist if you are looking to get involved in supporting or opposing a bill, but you want to know if there are other networks that are already working on this. We're happy to help with that. So thanks so much for joining, and have a great afternoon.